In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a woven bag out of magazines, in this case specifically a Jamberry catalog, so that each square of the weaving shows one wrap. As you can see in this first prototype, my strips were a little bit off, so as I got up to the top, my spacing was off, but I'm going to fix that in the one that I show in the tutorial. The supplies that you're going to need is a magazine. In this case, we're using, like I said, the Jamberry catalog, tape, scissors, clear contact paper, a long ruler. I'm using a fine tip Sharpie. Anything else you have that will write on the clear contact paper will be fine. And then we need a glue stick. So that's what we're going to use. The next step is to prepare our catalog. I tore it in half, and then we're looking for all the pages that look like this, where it's got 3 or 4 rows of wraps on it. The ones that only have 1 row of wraps aren't going to be as useful. So we want to find all of the sheets like this, and we're going to need 12 of these sheets with either the 3 or the 4. And we can only use one side, so pick which one you like better and set those aside. Okay, so here are my sheets that all have the 3 or 4 rows of designs on them. And we're going to glue these end to end so that we make a long strip that has, I think we want 14 wraps down in a long column on each sheet. And you want to make sure as you glue them together that the spacing between this one at the end of one sheet and the first one on the next sheet stays the same as it is right here. So using another page to match your spacing is good. Okay, so here I'm going to glue 2 sheets together. I've got my first sheet here, and I cut off just a little bit of the end of it so that there's not as much space between it and so that it doesn't overlap over the top of the next sheet. And then I've got my ruler over here, and I'm lining up to make sure that just the very edge of the wrap designs are lined up with my ruler. I'm doing that with both sheets to make sure that they're straight, just like that. Okay, and then I took another sheet and I folded it right at the edge against the wraps so that way I can use it as a spacing guide. So I have mine too close together because I want them to stay that same distance apart that they are in the catalog. Okay, I'm going to try to move this with only one hand. I don't have a tripod. Okay, get that a little bit closer. Okay. Right there. That looks like it matches. So now I'm going to try to make sure that I can do this without moving it. Having 2 hands is easier here. Okay, just line that back up to the ruler. Okay, now I'm going to glue those together. So if I pin it shut right there with my fingers, I can pick up this edge, and then I'm gonna put down the camera for a second, and I'm just gonna put glue between those 2 layers and smooth it out. Okay, so like I said, I just went ahead and did some glue stick between those to make sure they're glued together. I don't have a whole lot of overlap on the back. If there was a lot of overlap up here, I would go ahead and trim it off. Now I'm gonna put together 4 sheets in the same way, like this. Maybe kind of making sure that I kind of mix up which ones all end up in a row like this. So 4 sheets all together, making sure that I keep the spacing from one wrap to the next the same as what it is in the catalog. And I'm going to make 3 long rows like this that each have 4 catalog pages in them. So I glued all my strips end to end, and on each strip I have a section with 3 wraps, 3 sections with 3 wraps, and a section with 4 wraps. And I actually left the footer and the header at the top and the bottom, so that way I have a little bit of extra room at the ends when I go to weave in the ends at the very end. just having a little bit of extra there. So we have 3 strips that each have 4 columns with 13 wraps going up. The next step is going to be to put these on the contact paper. We want to put contact paper on both sides. So we've got the clear contact paper, and this is going to just fit exactly the 3 sheets across. So this is going to be perfect. I'm going to put them on the contact paper on one side and then flip it over and do the contact paper on the other side. And I'll be right back. Okay, so to apply this, I took the contact paper, I made a strip as long as my catalog strips, a little bit, about 4 inches longer. And I peeled back about 2 inches and then stuck that 2 inches to the table. And then I laid my catalog strips underneath it and stuck just the tips of that to the contact paper there. Now I'm going to reach under here and take out this and pull this slowly. I'm going to have to use both hands and pull it out slowly and smooth it as I go so that the contact paper goes down over the sheets without bubbling. So after you get the whole thing covered with the contact paper on one side, you want to peel it up and do the same thing on the other side. It's going to be a little easier if you at least trim off the contact paper on this top edge so that you don't have a lot of double sticky there as you're trying to line that up. The last step before we get to start weaving is to mark and cut out all of our strips. So we need our ruler and we need our pen. We're going to cut each of these strips as 2 centimeters wide from the top of one wrap to the top of the next wrap is 4.1 centimeters. So we want to half that and take off just a little. So we're going to go with 2 centimeters wide to make it fit so that everything weaves together nicely. So we're going to do 2 centimeters centered over each wrap, mark it at the top, mark it at the bottom, connect the lines, and then cut out all the strips. So here's what it looks like with all my lines marked on before I start cutting it. I'm going to cut just barely inside those lines so that the black marks don't show, and those lines go all the way up. And so I'm going to cut out and be back later. Here are all the strips after I've cut them out. They're still really nice and soft with the contact paper on them. So to start weaving them, I'm going to put them 6 one direction, 6 the other direction in the middle, and we're going to just weave up that center square using some Scotch tape if necessary to help keep them lined up. When I line up my 6 for each direction, I want to make sure that I have ones that next to each other that aren't from the same pages, just to mix it up a little bit, keep them looking different. So like this one, these 3 right there are from the same page. I want to put in some different ones there. Here we go. So now those 6 are different, and it actually looks like I've got 2 that are upside down. So there we go. Just to be consistent, they're all pointing the same way. So those are my first 6. And when I line these up, I'm going to do this, they're going to go diagonally. And we're going to offset them like this. So how they're offset right there. Okay. The ends are going to make a stair step. These have different amounts of paper at the end, but our wraps are making a stair step at each end. Okay, bump those up next to each other. And then we're going to start weaving in our other strips going the other direction. Try to figure out how to film this and do this with one hand. So regular weaving, over, under. I'm going to take this and put it Let's see what I can do here. Ah, okay. Here's what it looks like with the first strip in. So we're lining it up so that the parts that go over are where the wrap is on each one. I'm going to bump this just a little bit more that way so everything's centered. I'm going to push everything nice and tight together. Put a little bit of tape, put a row of tape across there just to hold it still. We'll pull the tape off when we're done, but we want to keep everything nice and tight, and we don't want it to shift around because our placement is really important. So we're going to go ahead and put a row of Scotch tape across there, and we'll add in little bits of tape as we go just to keep everything still, and we'll pull the tape off at the end. So here are 2 rows woven in, and you can see that I've got it so the wraps show up in each of the holes. And I put some tape right on the intersections, pushing everything really tight together so that it holds close and it's not wiggly. Because this has the contact paper on it, it's slippery. It's so much easier to put the tape on and take the tape off at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my next 4 pieces so that I have my 6. And then we tape as we go, and then we'll work on folding it into our square. So here's what it looks like when we're done weaving our 6 strips each direction. And like I said, I've got it taped over each of the intersections just to keep this nice and still. All of our ends are stair-stepped so that we've got the center of each strip right here through this along this diagonal. This diagonal is where we're going to fold it in half with this side that we can see on the outside. This fold is going to form the bottom of our bag. So we're going to fold this in half and crease it down, and then we will start weaving the rest of these sides and join the sides together. So here I've got it folded and creased tightly across the bottom, and we're going to fold each of these strips one at a time back against this, against the strip before it, and crease this edge, and we'll do that for both strips at the bottom here on both sides. So the one here and this one, we're going to fold them back, make a fold right here at a 90-degree angle to this fold here, 45-degree angle to the edges of the strip, and then that'll make it so that it goes up this way. Okay, here's what it looks like. I've got this strip that was here, folded back here and creased. I did the same thing on the other side. This is that first strip that was going here, folded back, lined it up, creased it. Now each of these are going to switch sides. So this one that's here on the top is going to go on our bottom layer. The one that's on the bottom is going to go on the top. We're going to start with the one that's on the outside right now. So it's on the outside right here. We need to fold it backwards like this, and then it's going to actually be, it goes inside the other one. So it goes like this. We take, it's really hard to do without a tripod. Take this one like this, and the one that's on the other side, here we go, it's going to come out. It's going to go over. So see how that makes that corner woven so it matches. And then we're going to take this strip and we're going to weave it the rest of the way up. So here's the strip that I took from the back, folded over, went under, over, under, over, under, and I taped it here and here, making sure that it's nice and tight and isn't going to pop out, because now I have to flip it over and take this strip that I'd folded over from the other side. This one isn't woven in, but it is caught under the strip that had come from the other side. So this corner is woven, and so then we're going to weave this one in the rest of the way. It's under, over, and we're going to finish going up and tape it. So you do both corners the same way, and then you're going to work up the sides in the same manner. Taking the strip, folding it back, creasing it, doing the same thing on the other side so that it lines up like that. Okay, the strip from this side goes on top. The strip from the other side comes underneath like this so that they stay woven. This one goes back there. Okay, and then weave this, weave the other side, and keep going all the way up on both corners and weave in these middle parts as you go. You can decide how tall you want it. If you want to make it just the right size to hold a sheet of wraps, the 6 across and then about 5 crossings up is plenty. If you want it to be the size of the one I showed at the beginning, you're going to wrap all the way to this last wrap on each strip. And then I'll show in a second how to do the weaving in at the tops to get that scalloped edge. I'm getting right up to the top of this side here, and you can see I'm right up into the last wraps on these strips, so I'm not weaving further into the center. We're going to start, once we get all the way done up on both sides, then we'll fold back these strips to make our scalloped edge. So I've got it all woven up. I just need to weave in these top edges to make it have this scalloped edge here. And to figure out where my top row exactly needs to be, I want to make sure that this top square, where the piece that's coming over, has a wrap on it. And so looking for my top place that all the overs have a wrap on it. And so on this side, it looks like it can be this row. Let's make sure that's correct on the other row. Okay, but on the other row, these wraps, this square doesn't have wraps on it. So I need to drop down one row. So we're going to make this row right here, where they point to the left, be my top row. So here's how we're going to do that. Okay, once again, bear with me as I try to show this one-handed. This is a little tricky. So here's my wrap that's pointing to the left. This is going to be my end here. So I'm going to look at this strip. The strip is kind of long. I want to cut it to about 2 inches past the end of that wrap because that's the top edge. I want to have enough to tuck back on the inside, but I don't need all that extra. So I'm going to cut it about right here, about 2 inches away from the end of that little piece there. So I cut it to the about 2 inches past, and then this is going to get folded back right on top of the piece that it's over. And then all these ends in there, we're going to take it, it goes over this wrap, this piece isn't over, and then we're going to push it under this one back there. Just like that, so that it locks under. Then we're going to take the piece that it went over, the other one for that same corner, crease it back, and then it's going to go back this way. It'll get covered up as we do the piece next to it. So go to the next one next to it. This gets folded back here. I'm going to take off some of that extra. Go to the inside and tuck it under. Crease this edge nicely. Okay, now that this part has been woven there, I can show you where this piece is going to go. So this part folds back, and then this goes between that part that doubled back, like that. So that end is caught under. And we do that all the way around. When we go around the corner, we want to just straighten it out so that it goes under like that. This piece goes in between these two pieces right there, like that. and crease the edge. And you're just going to do that all the way around. So here I've got all my ends woven in, and this is what the inside looks like. I'm going to go in and trim off some of these little bits that are sticking out so that there aren't these parts that are sticking out inside. And then this will be done, except for putting a closure on it of some sort. I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do. Maybe hand sew in a zipper. Probably put a few snaps on it. Just sew some snaps on. Like one there and one there to hold it shut. One thing you can see here, this one I did with the laminating pouches and my laminating machine, and this one I did with contact paper. And you can see the contact paper one is a lot softer. The one with the laminating machine is a lot stiffer, but it's also a little bit shinier. So it's up to you. This one's very springy. This one's a little softer feel, not quite as shiny, though this does also still have the Scotch tape on. I'm going to peel off the Scotch tape now, and then this is done. For the handles here, what I did was I just took a strip and then just wove that in about 3 squares deep on each side. And that's it for the handles. The handles weren't really my idea. They were my 5-year-old's. He just insisted that a bag has to have handles. And can't really argue with that logic. So there you have it. That's how to make your own woven bag out of Jamberry catalogs. Thanks. Bye.